You see, Formula 1 drivers are, well, they're meant to be the pinnacle of motorsport. They're meant to be the best drivers. But somehow, some shit is creeping. Lance Stroll. I don't know how Nick de Vries was in the sport. I don't know how Latifi. And don't even get me started. Don't even on Nikita Mazepin. But yet still, every single driver or every single human has some faults and issues. So let's go over every single main issue about a driver in Formula 1. If you disagree, then put your ideas or put it in the comments. But don't go bitching. I'm gonna say this all the time. Don't go bitching about my fucking things. Because my opinion, like honestly, shut up. But I still kind of want to hear what you think. So put it down in the comments. Anyway, subscribe, like, and I hope you enjoy the video.
Yes. This is impressive. Now I'm coming on your camera, mate.
Well, let's start off with one of the many GOATs in Formula 1, Charles Leclerc. Someone who is so bloody fast, but yet such a big shitter when it comes to... Now, not only can he not keep it on track for like 5 minutes to save his life, every time I just walk away from the race, maybe even blink for 1 second, and I open my eyes, and I gain consciousness, guess what? He's in the wall. Pretty much every race. Baku 2023, qualifying has ended, and he somehow manages to stroll his way into the wall, his second home. Like, honestly, how is that possible? So for Charles Leclerc, I think his biggest weakness is just he crashes a bit too often. Now, this might be because he's pushing the car to limits that the car doesn't even want to go itself, or even can go itself. He's trying to extract, you know, the tiny bit more performance out of the car, but the car just doesn't give. So he ends up in the wall because he's over pushing. Now, not only is this bad for, well, his reputation, because we all know that Charles crashes a lot. That's just, you know, that's printed on his forehead everywhere he goes. But it's not good for Ferrari. If Charles if he's crashing every bloody race, or every other race, it's expensive, like very expensive. Not only is he griefing his team, the Tifosi are going into another Great Depression, but I mean, obviously he's griefing himself, his own hopes of winning races, podiums, and blah, 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 blah. And if a genie gave me 3 wishes, I think I'd use 2 of them on Charles Leclerc, just having a good car and not crashing, and the other one on probably an Alex Albon podium. But that's besides the point.
I'm moving up and down, side to side, like a roller coaster.
Lando Norris, a near perfect driver. All Formula 1 drivers are nearly perfect. But Lando Norris, he kind of has some issues when it comes to, you know, the high pressure moments, like getting pole position. He has just so close, but yet it's a bit far from Verstappen. I don't know, it feels like anytime Lando's under a lot of pressure, he knows his car is worthy enough or fast enough that he can get pole. There's always some kind of mistake. In races as well, there's a possibility that Lando can win the race or score another podium, but there's always, you know, some limiting factor, whether it be, you know, his pace or the strategy of the team. Let's not even talk about, what was it, Zandvoort 2023? What was that all about? I mean, that was the team strategy. But still, there are many races in 2023 that, you know, if he was a bit more lucky, he could have won. Or maybe if he just... Now, Lando is pretty faultless, but, you know, there's always something. There is always something.
It's awesome. It's down to the men and women that are back at the factory.
At the moment, Lewis is pretty consistent, like very consistent. Always qualifying pretty high up the grid and finishing races very high up the grid, given the car that he has. And compared to George, what did George get? 2, 3 podiums? And, well, a DNF in... Whereas Hamilton got, well, a shit ton more. But in his current state, I think Hamilton's biggest issue is his car. Not anything to do with Hamilton, but the car he's given. We've seen when he has a championship-worthy car that, you know, 9 times out of 10, he clutches up and he gets that championship. But when he doesn't have a good car, you know, it's sad to see because he's a fantastic driver. And when he goes to Ferrari, will it all go to waste? Will the championship hopes just in general just be in the drain like Schumacher's career? And can't wait to see. Now, I think it's only fair to talk about the big Giga Chad himself, Fernando Alonso. Now, does he have any issues or any weaknesses? No, he's perfect. Well, maybe sometimes when he has a bad car, he gives up. But when he has a good car, like at the start of 2023, there was literally 0 issues. He was perfect, but he still didn't win a race. But still, he was perfect. So Alonso, he has no issues. He's old, he's bold, or not really, but he's a fucking great driver. A driver that's under a lot of pressure. Sergio Perez. Now, there might be a couple ideas that spring to mind. He can't win a race when Verstappen's winning 17? 19? Something like that season. He can't qualify in the top 5 to save his life. Alex Albon in a Williams is just doing much better than him. Perez's average finishing position is P10, whilst Verstappen's is P1. There's a lot. But I think Perez's main issue currently is his teammate, or the team that he's in. Not only is he getting absolutely dominated, like slapped up in the face, like imagine The Rock just giving you a hard slap. That's Perez. That's Perez. Not only is he pretty much John Cena in the championship, invisible, just non-existent, but he's being slapped up by his teammate. And the team, I can't lie, they don't really care about him. He's a little pawn in the whole Red Bull thing. You know, they could get rid of him tomorrow and no one would really care. But we all know Checo's grinning, licking his lips, knowing that Christian Horner is under the same allegations as Epstein. But yet again, that's besides the point. I don't think I don't think Red Bull have faith in Checo, and yeah, let's be real, he's going to get replaced by Ricciardo mid-season or by the end of the season. And why is that? Because he's not at the same level as his teammate. But say his teammate was a big shitter like Logan Sargent. Yeah, it'd be different, wouldn't it? So that's why I think Perez's main issue is his teammate and his team.
What the fuck was he doing?
Now, yes, I'm always going to say this, but crashes in F1 are one of the most entertaining things to see. Because 10 times out of 10, the driver is fine. There's no real cause for concern. That's a good phrase. But someone that crashes a bit too much for it to be entertaining is George Russell. Not only was the ending to the Singapore Grand Prix one of the most entertaining pieces of fucking content I've seen in a while, I even called, oh my god, George is gonna crash. Guess what he does the lap after I said that? Well, he goes ahead and crashes. Now that could have been an amazing scrap for the win, or it was, but it could have been even better if George was still in the race. If he overtook Lando, then he was second, and then what happens? Lando doesn't have DRS, Hamilton overtakes Lando, and then Carlos is a sitting duck. George could have won. Now that, it was annoying, but it wasn't as annoying as George taking out Carlos Sainz into turn 1 in Texas. Now that really pissed me off, because not only is he ending his own race, there's something about George and crashes. He has to tone it down. Let's not even talk about 2021 Imola. These crashes aren't because he's, overcooking the car or over pushing, like Charles Leclerc. He's just on a different planet of skill. George Russell's crashes are just absolutely... Can't say that word anymore. They're silly. They are silly. If he stayed consistent, do you remember at the start of 22? Mr. Consistency was his name. And where did that go? Out the window. Out the window. If he stayed consistent, throughout the season, then there wouldn't be a cause for concern. See, I'm using that again. At the end of the 2023 season, where Mercedes could have lost P2 in the constructors, but they didn't. They kind of clutched up. But for George to be an actual threat to Hamilton in 24, keep consistent, George. Keep consistent.
I don't know what we're calling this, but basically we've got helmets on our head that are full of water.
Anyway, speaking of consistency, it's not nice to bash on rookies because yes, it's their rookie season, but some deserve it. Like Mazepin, get the fuck out of here. Thank you. But Oscar Piastri, he's won a race before Lando Norris, which is, something in itself. But I think his main issue is his consistency in the races. Not only is he dropping, throughout the race, he's falling down the order compared to Lando skyrocketing up. His pace, his lap-to-lap pace, isn't the same as Lando's or anywhere near. But yes, he's a fucking rookie. How much do you expect from a rookie? Looking at Hamilton's season, a lot. But that was a one-off occasion. Piastri was a beast, an absolute beast that season. But, you know, his consistency just isn't there yet. I know it's gonna be because it's Piastri and he's a fucking machine, but it isn't so far. In quali, he was a couple tenths off Lando, and, well, got, let's be real, smacked in qualifying. Just, as yet again, lap-to-lap consistency isn't there. You might have a stunning lap, but then the next lap is just... But genuinely, I think if Oscar Piastri, well, he has a season under his belt. If he can improve his consistency, I think he might have Lando in a chokehold.
Push flat out.
Shut up!
Now, we all like Yuki. Him and Gasly have a phenomenal friendship. But besides the whole I generally can't speak. Besides the whole, you know, cuddly bear stuffed toy that Yuki is on the outside, when he's in the car, he is the total opposite. He's a menace. He's Dennis the Menace, but without the Dennis. Yuki the Menace. His temper is higher than the degrees that I use to cook something in the oven. It's just... There's always an issue on the radio with him. He's either screaming about this, screaming about that. Shut up, don't tell me. He's like a Raikkonen, but more angrier. And yet, sometimes when it comes to races, yet again, when there's pressure, Yuki does kind of crumble. At the start of the 2023 season, there was no competition. He was sweeping the floor clean. De Vries was his teammate because he was an absolute... He was shit. He was dog shit. But then Big Ricardo steps in. Oh dear, there is some competition, isn't there? Yuki kind of... Well, he wasn't... More mistakes started to creep in. And then radio messages get angrier and angrier because he's not happy with his performance, and things start to tumble down. And that was, well, that happened in 2023, 2022, and 2021. He was the most angriest person ever. Some would call it bipolar. The difference between him on track and off track was a different person. Get checked out. Maybe you see a doctor.
I'm a high performance athlete. Athletes sweat. Sweat, baby. Sweat, sweat.
And Yuki's teammate for the 2024 season is none other than the Kiki Daniel Ricciardo. Don't know why I said Ricciardo like that, but I think his biggest issue in Formula 1, nothing to do with him, but I think it's Perez. I think he's just blocking, but there's a word before the blocking which I'm not going to say, but he's blocking Ricciardo's entry into Red Bull. Well, of course he is. If Ricciardo is a shit start to the season, Ricciardo is going to sweep that up and be like, Perez, get the fuck out of here, that's my seat. And I generally hope that happens, because who wouldn't want to see Ricciardo back in the Red Bull? And that's Ricciardo's biggest issue. He's in a shit car when a biggest shitter in Perez is in the Red Bull. So that's why I believe and think that Perez is just Ricciardo's issue. Nothing to do with Ricciardo, but it's just Perez, kindly step aside. Let the big dogs play.
Be alone.
There's always, you know, one issue with a driver, sometimes maybe two. But with Lance Stroll, it's just like, he's the issue. He's the main issue, he's the problem. He's the issue. Not only can he not stay consistent for a race weekend, let alone the whole season. It's a roller coaster of a journey, going up and down from good to bad. It's just, how is that possible? He started the 2023 season quite well with a broken hand, but then with a good hand, he was nowhere. P20, P18, things along those lines. And by the end of the season, when their car was dog shit, he was somehow up there. I don't understand. Yes, there's also silly crashes, silly mistakes, like in Singapore. Maybe he was over pushing the car, but there's always something. Like in Baku, he crashed out twice in one race. How is that possible? Or last year in Texas, when he just swerves into Alonso down the straight. Alonso goes flying like Mark Webber in whenever that was. What? I'm not a Lance Stroll hater. I have faith in him for the 2024 season. I think he's gonna cook. Not only because there's a lot of pressure, but he kind of has to. If he doesn't, then I think everyone's just gonna... No. Everyone's gonna hate him more than he does. He doesn't want that. I think he's gonna cook.
Smooth operator. Smooth operator.
You see, the issue with Sainz is that he's not the main character. He's not the James Bond like Charles Leclerc. He's the villain that, you know, he's there, but you all forget about him. No one really cares. He's missing... Carlos is missing that small wow factor. The thing that Lando has. The thing that Charles has. Carlos just... He's lacking, what, 1 or 2 tenths, and that's it. And because he's lacking that small margin, he's being booted out of Ferrari. And I think that's the main issue. the little couple tenths that he's missing, plus the wow factor. I don't think he has as many fans as, say, Lando or Charles, but Carlos is a great driver. He's a great upper midfield. Could he battle for a championship? I don't think so. But he's a good secondary driver, and maybe even a primary driver at a team a bit lower down. Now at the moment, it kind of seems that Verstappen doesn't have any issues, like no issues whatsoever. But there's times where he's absolutely livid on the radio. He's always having a mother's meeting or an argument with Jean-Pierre Lambiasi. I love saying that name. But there's always some kind of argument or, you know, X, Y, and Z. Like, do you remember the DRS in 2023 Spain? Like, him screaming over the radio. What is he, a child? Why is he whining like that? He doesn't have DRS. Boo hoo hoo. Like, no one cares. Simmer down. You're gonna win the championship. You're gonna win the race. But this is me just nitpicking. He's a perfect driver. He's like Alonso. There's nothing really bad.
Oh, George, you are so bad.
Now, Alex Albon's main issue in Formula 1, I think it's his car. His pace is like up here, like above the camera shot, but his car just is here. Yeah, his car's not the greatest. And I think we all know that if Albon was in good machinery, he'd be battling for podiums and wins and maybe even the championship. But with his car, that's just not possible. Or with the 2023 car. Maybe the 2024 car will be cooking like Gordon Ramsay. But, you know, we have to wait and find out. But Logan Sargent, on the other hand... His pace, right? It's his pace, his crashing. He's just not up there yet. 2023 was his rookie season. That's understandable. But if you're not up there, then, you know, you're just not up there. Maybe in a couple seasons' time, he'll develop into a great driver, like Yuki's doing currently. But for now, his pace is lower than Bedrock. And he crashes more often than Drake is posting some sussy things on the internet. Now, all of the other drivers, I think we could kind of group them into one thing. They're good drivers, but they're just missing a couple tenths to be battling for championships, podiums, and wins. Yeah, that's all. I mean, with Ocon, he hates his teammates. When he was in the team with Perez, what was it called again? Racing Point. When he was in Racing Point with Checo, fucking hell. Like, he crashed out. The amount of times him and Checo made contact is astronomical. Plus, him and Gasly and Alpine had 3 double DNFs. Australia was a highlight, or a pretty low point for Alpine in general. Anyway, in the comments, let me know your thoughts and what you guys think are the weaknesses or issues of every driver. And subscribe, like, and peace.